Hello and a warm welcome to our Conversations in Design session. I'm Claire German, and Managing Director of the Design Centre. In this exciting format, we're keeping our community engaged and inspired wherever they are. We're bringing together designers, industry insiders and media hosts for some great conversations online. And now to our speakers. By the power of technology, I'm delighted to introduce a thoroughly creative panel. Interior designers Emily Todhunter, co-founder of Todhunter Earl, Henry Prideaux, co-founder of Henry Prideaux, and Claire Vallis, creative director of Sanderson Design Group. We're in for a treat as we're going to delve into the archive and take a trip back in time. This promises to be a really fascinating session, and who better to chair it than Sophia Salomon, executive editor of The World of Interiors. Thank you all for tuning in, and over to you, Sophia.
Thank you so much, Claire, for introducing everyone. I just want to welcome Henry, Emily and Claire. And better way to kick off than with William Morris's famous quote, which he said in 1880 in his lecture on the beauty of life: "Have nothing in your houses that you do not know to be useful or believe beautiful." This quote is still so relevant and kind of evergreen today. Can you tell us, Emily and Henry, what you take from it and if it still kind of gives you inspiration?
Well, shall I go, Henry? I tell you, what do I think? I think a lot about William Morris is very inspirational. What makes me slightly unnerved by a quote like that is that it does sound as if you're being sort of told what you have to have in your house. But luckily, I think, but the fact that if you believe it's beautiful, then that's enough. It wouldn't do it for me if I was told by anybody that you've got to have something and that it is beautiful. So if I was a decorator and said, listen, believe me, you've got to have this thing in your house because I promise you it's beautiful, that wouldn't be absolutely, it wouldn't be the way I would want to work or treat people. I think the trick is, as long as you believe it's beautiful yourself, then luckily that means I think anything can go. So it doesn't have to be particularly good or expensive or good taste, but you need to believe it's beautiful, and you need to get that lovely feeling that you've got something wonderful in your house that is meaningful for you and beautiful to you, whether it or not as beautiful to everybody else. And I think that's quite interesting. It's something you enjoy and it makes you feel good. And you know, it doesn't matter what it is, but as long as it makes you happy, then I think that does it. That would be that's what I read from that quote in a nutshell.
Yes. And Henry, sometimes a little bit of bad taste actually can go a long way. So,
oh, I agree.
You don't have to be tasteful all the time, albeit that as decorators, that's what we want. But I mean, I think for me, it's about good things done really well. So things that last as well. And I think something that lasts, it transcends trends, in the sense that, you know, trends will come and go, whereas something that does last will just go through all of those trendy cycles. And will sort of always be in fashion, so to speak. I think we'll come on to it later probably, but about some of the new William Morris papers. But you know, when things the colors are changed, they can be refreshed for a new age, but those patterns still stay the same. And I think we all, you know, those design cycles, they sort of evoke a sense of nostalgia, and we all really like that. And we sort of, at the moment, we're definitely sort of harking back to that. But I think for me, it's about having really good quality things done well to have in your home.
So would you say that the quote is kind of a good place to start in terms of you know, designs for the house or interior design, or it's still quite applicable, I guess?
Well, as Emily said, it's quite a difficult quote to stick to sometimes, because you can't always necessarily have everything beautiful and useful, but it's definitely something aspirational, perhaps.
Yeah. And Claire, what do you think he was trying to tell us when he said that?
Well, for me, obviously, it's very close to my heart, and actually, it's a quote that we used as inspiration for our purpose statement for the Sanderson Design Group. So our purpose statement is to bring the beautiful into people's homes and lives. And for me, it really talks about sustainability as well. So we feel a real responsibility to produce things that and that really resonate with people for generations to come, you know. And I think the idea of producing something that has an integrity to it, that you know how it's made, and we make in the UK, and so I think there's something beautiful about the craftsmanship and the story behind these things. Our archive is full of wonderful things, and an archive needs to be continually rethought and reimagined, if you like. And so, and I think that's how our brands need to be as well. So they keep on growing. It's not trapped in an archive in a certain time or era. It just keeps on moving forward. So yeah, it really resonates with me. And I think you should have things in your house that reflect your personality and that bring you joy. So yeah.
So let's talk a bit about Sanderson and Morris and Co. They're both enjoying 160 years of anniversary.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, absolutely.
The archive look here from Sanderson.
Yeah.
Well, the image on the left is an archive look. The image on the right is the current image.
So that's our factory in Chiswick. So a beautiful building, but one that was very much at the forefront of creating wonderful things. And both Arthur Sanderson, William Morris, the two entrepreneurs at the time, were kind of I guess set this whole feeling out. Arthur Sanderson was a collector. He had a wonderful eye for beautiful things, and so he imported some wonderful things and then set about creating them in this factory. William Morris, he cared about
Morris now. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so William Morris, he was a scholar, and he wanted to know how things were made, and he was always worth researching old ways of doing things and preserving those old ways. And so again, both of them were interested in making things, which is wonderful. So our archive is full of beautifully things that were made, first print runs. Here you can see the William Morris logbook, so that's the recipes of each of his designs, how they were made, what went into them. So it's a wonderful archive of how something was made, and I think that still is just so interesting today.
So they're both kind of deemed to be quintessentially British brands, but with slightly different aesthetics, but with similar values at the core. So tell us a little bit more, Claire, about the legacy of them.
Yeah, so both of them, so we say that really Sanderson is the home of botanicals. As I say, Arthur Sanderson was an importer, so we've actually got a real mix of influences in our archive. It's a very wide archive because he was a collector, so he collected just lots of lovely things. So we have French wallpapers, silk wallpapers, beautiful, beautiful things, leather wallpapers, amazing things. But then William Morris, we have the manufacturer of all of the first block prints. We own the block prints, so it's quite a wide archive. So I think the two guys together really kind of give you quite a different aesthetic, but both of them were have a sort of a naturalistic feeling through them as well. So there's the botanicals and the florals from Sanderson, and then William Morris designs, he was inspired by nature, and he was a master of repeat. So you get those amazing undulating patterns, and layered together, they give you this wonderful feeling of maximalist and pattern, which I think just really, it resonates with people. You can remember those patterns, I think, throughout your life.
Absolutely, and what you just said about how it resonates with people, it seems that now we're enjoying a return to this cozy kind of British layered look. And Emily and Henry, why do you think that is? Do you think it's due to everything that we've been through, or just it's always a look that will be kind of relevant?
I think there's a definite mood for coziness. When we meet new clients now, we're getting it loud and clear that people are wanting to be embraced, almost hugged by their rooms. They want that feeling of proper comfort and coziness, and something that just makes them feel safe, really. in a strange way. And I don't know whether it is to do with pandemic or whatever. I just wonder if it isn't cyclical in some sense, but made all the more so because of what everyone's going through. And it is just this feeling of containment and safety that I think it comes through. And I think people get that from having very familiar things around them. And sometimes they don't know it, but just a pattern that reminds them of the sort of safety of their childhood it may be just subliminal, I don't know, but it definitely is happening. There's something going on there that you know, you can't escape it. Just definitely seems to be the way things are going.
And so, Henry, would you agree with this? I think we're going to see some images of these are one of Henry's.
That's lovely.
Yeah, this is actually a client of mine in London who is an American client who wanted, his brief was for a country house in the city. So we tried to layer it up with all sorts of textures, you know, different colors, not having it too neutral, lots of things going on. You know, benches under tables, mirrors wrapped in fringe, textured wallpapers, fringes on the curtains, things
pink
like
walls.
I love
Pink
the
walls.
Yeah,
I love the pink
Beautiful.
walls.
The pink walls are great, aren't they?
Yeah, especially for a man. I'm so glad it's a man.
that.
I'm hoping that's
yeah.
off any paint there. Looks like it's off any
Gosh,
colour.
I can't remember. You're putting me on the spot now. But and again, here, this sort of coziness is something that people, I think, as Emily said, are really looking for at the moment. And this is an archived Farron Hall stripe on the walls. You can delve into their archives and find it. But you know, I think people want that. If they can't have a physical hug at the moment from family
you
or whatever,
can,
they
from
want
today.
the kind of visible, from today we can. But they want that kind of visible hug, if that makes sense. And you can,
Yeah.
you can sort of get
Such
that
an
from a
inviting
book.
space, that one. You can imagine curling up in that corner, can't you? I think it's lovely.
Well, that's the idea. The camera is actually where the television is. It's sort of TV snug. But I think as well, there's been there was a sort of desire to kind of live in a show home for a while, and I think people have sort of moved away from that. I think it's not, you know, it's not always possible to live successfully in a show home, as it were. And having, you know, just stuff, we've all got stuff, having it around us gives us that sort of sense of security of knowing what's ours. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit of a hoarder in a way, but you know, others are. And it's nice to know that our stuff is okay being around us, and as Emily was saying, gives us that sense of security almost.
And I think so. This is one of Emily's projects.
Yeah, so this is a house in Scotland, which potentially can be one of the coldest places, and it's very warm and very cozy. It's actually leather, embossed leather on the wall, in sort of wonderful, sort of warm autumnal colours, and all the timber on the window and everything stripped back. And so because timber's very warm and soft fabrics are very warm, and you know, it's all about that sort of texture, combination of patterns and colours and balance. But the good thing is you don't walk in and think, think that it's been done. You just feel good. That's what we hope for, really, is that sort of just feel good factor.
And I
It's
think
sort of timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is insane. This is a crazy project. This is actually a famous arts and crafts house, Madresfield Court, in Worcestershire. It's open to public, and it's amazing. It's the house that Brideshead Revisited was based on, the Beecham's house. And this is just sort of mad, but it was there, obviously. I mean, we didn't bring in this paneling. This is something that's a historic house, and very much left as it is. But we added, which by the way, quite often we have to do, is to tone things down in terms of pattern. Sorry, maybe that goes slightly against the grain now, but the plain colours of the sofa and the pale blue and the cream, and then sometimes you have to, you know, when you're working with historic houses, You also have to think about this being the new modern. This doesn't look modern at all, but believe me, this would have been even more over the top possibly in those days, and sometimes it gets too much. So it's a bit like you, Claire, reinterpreting your patterns. You have to sort of think about what you can take from the past and then create the new modern with all the sort of charm and Britishness and sort of bonkers things that goes on, but create places that people can live in, these incredible houses, but in this today's generation.
That's what's so lovely, I think, you know, and I feel the same. It's kind of like it's not trapped in the past. You brought it up to date, which is so lovely. Because
that would be the
and it's lovely to live in.
It would be a mistake to just always look back. You've got to look back, I think, and take the best of what you can, and then bump it forward to where we are now, and say, is this livable in today's world? And does the, you know, does all the hugging, but also, you know, but is also in a way calm. And so there's a place for playing fabrics in amongst all of this and textures, but it's nice to have some cozy fabrics around. So this room has got fabric walling on the walls, the same as the curtains. And I think that's always quite an interesting thing as well, is if you've got the pattern on all four sides, the energy stays in the room. It doesn't escape so easily. And it's even cozier. So sort of the dreaded feature wall, one wall, doesn't ever really work because the energy goes out the other way. And any patterns that you get on the wall, if you can get them on the curtains as well, then you're absolutely you're really cozied up. You know, you're really happy. You're on all four sides. So that's what works there. And that's what you do sometimes, Claire, with yours as well, don't you?
We do. Yeah, we really do.
Combo. Claire, it's very difficult to get the print colours the same, isn't it?
What kind of Morris & Co. and Sanderson bring to this look that Emily and Henry have just been talking about, this kind of British layered look, and how they differ as well.
Yeah, we do so much of that, and we're doing more and more of the fabric and the wallpaper matching, which is interesting. So that's just something we're doing much more, and reflecting the pattern all the way through. I think William Morris, I mean, his designs have a real symmetry to them, which is very pleasing to the eye. He was a master of repeat, and they were all obviously, because they were block printed, they have a square repeat, so that they work very aesthetically to the brain. I think work really, really well. And then with the floors from Sanderson, I think, you know, they're so beautifully done. I mean, it's artists that kind of just have such a high skill, and we still use a group of artists today that kind of bring that talent to those designs, but they've got so much personality to them as well. You know, you remember them, and I think that's the key to it. You know, you remember that room, you know, to do with that pattern and colour.
And you tell us about the recent collaboration. I think we have an image of it now with Ben Pentreath.
Yeah, so Ben, we're really lucky. He's always been a Morris fan. He says that he uses Morris design somewhere in one of his schemes, one of his houses, pretty much on every time. So he came along to the archive and had a look through. He was already working, as I say, with Morris. He kind of found these 1970s archives that he remembered from his own childhood. So kind of at his grandparents' house, you know, the way that the colours were quite saturated. And actually in the 70s, that they were recoloured at that point, and it was from an exhibition from the V&A. There was a real resurgence and interest in Morris. And I think in the 70s, again, people were trying to express themselves a little bit more in their home and put a bit more personality into their home. So he loved the look and feel of these. And so that was our starting point. And then he wanted to kind of obviously move it on again with his own aesthetics. What was so nice about working with him as an interior designer is he imagined all the way through where we would use these patterns and colours. And so for me, you know, I'm very much used to working with the patterns, being able to produce them, get the colours that he wanted to do. But I loved knowing from the start where he was going to use it. He talked about, we're going to use this one in my kitchen, like really all the way through. It was a proper lockdown collection. the factory had to close. Obviously, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and I literally coloured it from the kitchen table with him on Zoom, back and forth.
How amazing.
And we brought the guys back into the factory to print it. So, and they were so excited to come back. You know, it was a really amazing atmosphere in the factory. You know, there's this feeling that we were getting through it, we were working together. It was just a really small team, obviously, at that time, to come back to print the Ben Pentreath collection, which everybody was so excited about. So, yeah, it's a special one for me, I think.
It's a lovely.
I think what's interesting about that is that it's just very refreshing, and those patterns still stay the same, but you know, just a tweak in the colors suddenly makes it, you know, come to life for today. Those colors might not be for everyone, but they're definitely an aesthetic that is very current. I think another thing that's really important actually is the use of social media in all of this, in that when you're scrolling through whatever channel you're on, when you see an image that is bright and colorful, really stops you in your tracks, that's, you know, it's all about the image, and everything is image led rather than being wordy or anything. And it's those kind of images that people stop on, and actually that people want, and that's sort of developed into this whole new sort of theme of this neo nostalgia that we're seeing a resurgence of.
It's about being uplifting, isn't it? So when you suddenly see something that makes you feel just a bit uplifted, is working at the moment. That's probably what
I
it
think
is.
even the wallpapers themselves are surface printed, so they have a real tactile nature. That's how they were been printed. They were block printed originally. Surface print is a move on from block printing, and we actually ran an ad campaign where we put a piece of the wallpaper into magazines, and we got a massive reaction to that. And I think because we're in this digital world and everybody's scrolling, it's really nice to see something as an app and touch something. And I think fabric and wallpaper does that for you. You know, it's an actual thing. There's an integrity to it. So
absolutely. So we were just talking about this kind of return to this nostalgic look that's become popular again today. I think we've got an image from Sanderson of the. This is from the current collection. Is that right, Claire?
Yeah, this is the 160 collection. So this is taking those iconic patterns that people know and love. So Rose and Peony on the sofa, and then Stapleton Park on the walls, and then on the ceilings as well. And we really had fun with this. You know, we played with the colours, we played with the scales, but we wanted to give it a feeling like the photography had, although it's very beautiful. You know, there is a cat in there, so that it's kind of making it kind of very normal and kind of a bit more lifestyle, so it feels much more real. And I was so pleased with this. I think the stylist did an amazing job of this. I just think it, you know, it brings it really up to date, and those patterns just look so refreshing and new. And
do you think the popularity of this type of look, it goes beyond the patterns and the colors, and with Morris & Co as well, it's a nostalgia for something?
Yes, I think it is. It's that feel good factor. It's what people can remember. You know, they might not, as Emily said, they might not know that they remember them, but somewhere in the back of their minds they've seen them, and you know, there's that familiarity. I also think people want to show their own personalities in their home, a little bit like Henry was saying about, you know, it's having their real things around them. And I think to choose a pattern that actually really resonates to you rather than something that maybe looks like everybody else's, you know, it kind of, I think people want to be a little bit more confident in their home, and want to, there's a real vibe towards people wanting to be a little bit more individual, I think.
And it's okay to be brave.
You know, these combinations can give you that as well.
Yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah.
I was just saying it's okay to be brave with your choices as well. And it's not to not, you know, care about what other people think, but it's just to care about what you think. Just kind of what Claire was saying. And you know, in that image you've got from Sanderson there of putting the wallpaper on the ceiling. I mean, the ceiling is the kind of fifth wall in any room, and that's not even thinking about the floor. It shouldn't always just be white. It can be anything it wants to be. So seeing those flowers on the ceiling is great. And actually, when you look at that image, you're not jarred by the ceiling being floral. Now it's not for everyone, but I think the fact that you're putting it out there is great, and people can you know, can buy into that and really think about their fifth wall.
And I think we have a picture of Sanderson's latest campaign coming
A
up.
little bit of a scoop, I think.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so again, the inspiration for this came from our archive. There's so many things to we have a brand new marketing director, and he saw a campaign that we have documented in our archive that again was from a period in the sort of 1970s, 80s, when people were playing again with interiors and personality and being a little bit braver. And we ran a campaign of the kind of people of the time, so Petula Clark and Jilly Cooper and those kind of faces, and they were surrounded by their Sanderson room, their very Sanderson room, and they kind of selected their look and feel of how they wanted it to feel in their very Sanderson room. And so we wanted to do that again. And Mario Itoje is obviously a British rugby player, so very much a kind of iconic sports person. He has a real interest in creativity, and we wanted to just kind of give him the opportunity to work with him to kind of select his Sanderson look. So yeah, we're excited by this. We think it looks really new and different.
It does.
It looks great. It
Great.
looks great. It's really fun.
And I wanted to ask Emily and Henry what your favorite designs are from Morris & Co, and Claire as well, and Sanderson. What your
Golly.
wallpaper and fabric design.
Can I say crest, because it's going to, the others I come Willow Bough, which is your one which you've recovered, is unquestionably my favorite, and I love it in I love it actually in the old colors as well as the new, both, and from the Sanderson one, actually I haven't really. Have you got a Caspian range? What's that one with the pomegranate? Anna, is that one of those?
Oh yeah, or something like jackfruit, or yeah.
We've got lots of wallpaper which is just called fruit wallpaper with
fruits. Yeah, fruit. That's a Morris design. Yeah, that's
the Morris design.
Yeah,
okay.
that's.
Have I passed the test? Oh.
Probably one of my favourites too, actually.
Yeah, that's a goodie. That's a
What
goodie.
about you?
Well, interestingly, what Emily was saying, that's a nice one, which is
There we go.
Well, that's a willow bough, and then
Beautiful.
that's the new colour from Bentham. One of the new
Fun.
colours. So these are, you know, hopefully we'll be getting to use these in some projects. So I do like that one. But someone was saying, I can't remember which one of you was saying about doing the wallpaper and the fabric in the same pattern. And I've also done Strawberry Thief in the red colorway in a really wonderful powder room, paper on the walls, and then the fabric as the window treatment, and it looks fantastic. So Strawberry Thief is a firm favorite. I do also like the Pure collection from Morris, which has no color in it at all, but it's very useful for any of those places where you want some pattern but maybe not some color. And that's probably 4 years old now, I think, maybe. Yeah,
there's two collections of Pure, where we've kind of pared it back and played with the pattern rather than with the color. So thanks.
I thought that was a very clever collection.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you. Well, that sadly brings us to the end of our discussion. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much to Emily, Henry, and Claire. And thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.